So we can start? Okay, yeah. Hi, it's Arthur here. We just finished one of the workshops, second session about planning point B, where you want to go with your company. And I'm just pumped up with energy. I will just run through a few slides quickly. So why do you need money? There are different reasons why you need money for a business, and it needs to be very important when you lay down why exactly you need money for it. This I steal from Tony Robbins about what the capital brings. It brings certainty, uncertainty, contribution, growth. It's very important. So here, what do you want? So you need to define the results of the business for the next 6 to 12 months. Which investment will yield the highest probability of success with the least risk? And here I want to argue that you need to understand that there are different types of funding possible, and you have different scenarios of growth. You need to outline them all and quantify the point B. I need specific amount of money for specific purposes with a clear outcome in my head, and you need to do that for each scenario. So for each scenario, you outline a specific plan, and then you go with it. So you have the different funding options, and this is one of the most important that we go into the funding. You need to really understand there are three main reasons why companies need money and how you can grow the company. You can bootstrap it. It means you need using your own money with the time and effort. You go to hackathon, you work for 24 hours, you make a product, you go to the market, right? And you use your own team, you give shares to the team, you use your own money. You grow in your own money and on the business options by optimizing the working capital, etc. As always, there are pluses and minuses. The plus is that you have no shares to be given out unless you give it to the team. You have zero control over the external investors, external banks. You don't need to see any reports. You just own your own, like a king of the castle. The minus is that you are growing slowly. Usually the bootstrapping businesses are profitable, good margins, 7 figures, but growing slowly. And look, there are no companies going to IPO without external capital, be it equity and debt. Usually it's both. So just think about that. If you're good where you are, no problem, just bootstrap, good luck. And usually this is one of the patterns I see with the starting founders, just focusing on the bootstrapping. That's good. I launched my brokerage business before I was broke without any money. So I had literally 1,000 euros in my pocket to start doing that. So I know how to do it. And it's good. But at some point, if you want to grow quicker, you need other types of financial resources. The next one is equity. Equity means you give the shares and you take the money in exchange of the shares. From whom to take? Angel investors, private equity, VCs, funds, friends, family, fools, you name it. The idea is that you give the shares and in return, the person gives you the money to grow the company. And how much you need money, it depends. If you're starting business, you take from VCs, maybe you pre-seed, you give them 10, 15, 20% of the shares. If you go bigger, sometimes you need to give out more shares. If you raise money from private investors, as I did from from my businesses, for example, he was from the Middle East, well, he got 80% of the business because he was investing 3 million euros into my business and I was investing 0 euros. So it depends on the proportion that you do. These are the two important concepts to remember about the equity. So what are the pluses and minuses? Well, it helps you to grow quicker. You have more liquidity. You can put it in your business. The minus is you have now a concept called cap table. You have people on your capital table. You have board meetings, shareholders agreements, covenants, different scenarios. You have some limitations, board seats. So you have all these shareholder things to talk about. If you have 2 or 3 partners, you need to talk about the opinions, consider their opinions, take it into account, many of these things. So this is the minus. The plus is the speed, and if you may, it's better to take money from smart people. It's called smart money. The people who understand your business, they know what you're doing, and those not big guys will be calling you every day and asking, where's my money, how it's going, how's the business? Then we have for a debt. Debt means loan from a bank or a financial institution. So it can be taken from any financial institutions. If they have a license, is good. How much you take it depends on your equity. It's 1-on-1, 1-to-2, depends on your business. For some businesses, 1-to-10, for some businesses, 0-5. There are pluses and minuses. For the plus, you have more liquidity, you give out 0 shares. The minus, you have covenants, you have most probably personal guarantees, depends on the country, on the product, on how big you are. Then sometimes you have this heavy reporting, you need to report them on a monthly basis. You have a credit line, you need to give back the money once in a quarter and then take it back. It gives some complications, but the most important thing, you have more liquidity and you give 0 shares to anyone. So putting it all together, you have point A, this is what we talk about in the masterclass, in the workshop, where you are, you map where you are. Then we talk about point B, where you want to go. Then you consider the options, how much money you need for different scenarios, and then you put it all together. Now, this slide is one of the most important slides ever for funding possibilities. Let's consider an example. So you are a founder, you have a manufacturing company, you took it from your grandfather, it was small, you raised it, it's big, you're looking good. 5 million revenue, 500,000 EBITDA, you have assets, you have equity, 0 debt, you don't work with the banks. You're the one that's saying banks are bad, doesn't trust them, they have 0 money, you know, everything that we hear from many founders. You have 0% shares of the company, and if you continue doing that, in 5 years you'll have 1.75 million in your bank account. Again, assuming that you don't distribute dividends, you don't reinvest it in your own business. Again, consider the example being a relative one with the numbers. And let's take a look if you bootstrap it. It means that you work hard, you hustle, you make some hires, you grow naturally. You don't grow exponentially because it's hard, again, depending on the business. Like if you take one of the books I have right here, 100 money models, then you can take money from customers and then put it in the business rather than financing externally, then you can exponentially grow. But otherwise, for the rest of us, you bootstrap it and you get some minor improvements in the business. In this case, you get extra revenue, extra EBITDA, extra assets. And in 5 years' time, you get not 1.75, but 2 million euros. Good case, right? But then again, let's consider another example. Let's consider that you're taking equity. You're looking for a partner, you're raising money. You're giving 40% shares to investor, you retain 60% to you. A good case, for example. You double the revenue because you take the money from the investor and you put it in the business. Let's say you add another manufacturing line. Let's say, for sake of example, you double the revenue, you have more EBITDA, you have more assets, and then you have more profit. So finally, you have 5 million profit and 60%, because you own 60% of the company, gives to you. So it's 3 million euros. It's 1 times higher than bootstrapping your business. And again, if it's a smart money, trust me, those people will introduce you to higher customers, better suppliers. They'll work hard and help you to grow your business because they're interested. If it's a stupid money or dirty money, they'll have problems in your business, trust me. But then consider that we're not going the equity, we're going to the debt. So we're applying to a bank, and with 1 million euros in my share capital, I can raise 2 million debt. What does it mean? It means I, again, put 2 manufacturing lines, increase my revenue, increase EBITDA, and all other equal things. In 5 years' time, I have 7 million euros in my account. Without distribution, without making any profit and reinvesting it. So take a look at that. The results are much better than working with equity. And you have 100% control of the company, and banks like you. And again, if you're working with a bank, what's the, again, plus working with a bank? If you're good and paying back and making good on your terms and paying interest, they like you, they can give even more and more. And those are the guys that are necessary for us to grow, if you want to go to IPO, for example. Let's consider debt plus equity. In this example, we just raise 1 equity and 2 debt. We don't raise extra debt on the extra equity that we raise. Again, this scenario, we increase the revenue, we increase the EBITDA, we have more money in the bank account in 5 years, less with the debt. But again, it's because we didn't raise extra debt on equity. If we will do that, trust me, these numbers will be much better, and this section will be one of the best for all of all these calculations. So what does it mean? It means, like one of the guys asked me in the workshop, Arthur, what's the best to do? My honest answer is, I don't know, it depends on your situation. Sometimes it's better to do bootstrap. Sometimes it's better if you're heavily in equity to go for debt financing, to increase return on equity. Sometimes if you're too much in debt, you need to raise equity. I'll share a few examples later. Sometimes it's good to have both, a mixture. It depends on your psychology, what you want, what you like, what are your goals, what are your possibilities, what is the current situation of your business. So there's no right and wrong strategy. I'm not saying debt is bad or good, the same for the equity. I'm just saying there are different options for your business to grow. My job is to make sure that you learn how it works and what are the different scenarios, and you can apply and choose whatever you want. Because one of the biggest mistakes, the biggest patterns I see in founders is that they just go with bootstrapping. Now on LinkedIn, I have like 20 requests per day on LinkedIn, and people are asking, Arthur, what it is? I'm bootstrapping. I say, good luck with bootstrapping. Just consider other options. Or they're heavily fundraising from VCs. Or there's a SaaS business. We have one customer, it's a SaaS business, good revenue, 3 million per year, annualized revenue rate, and it's a subscription-based model. Banks kind of don't get it, but they're revenue-linked financing. They're revenue-based agreements which you can get from alternative financing sector, which can fund your and tie to your revenue, to growth or decline of your revenue. Yes, it costs more than in a bank, but again, it gives you more liquidity without giving out the shares. I mean, LPs like to do that. So choose your scenario based on where you are, but always consider as many options as possible. I have 3 examples. Chips. I have a few customers of chips production in Europe. One of them, very nice guy, he called me and said, Arthur, we need help. Okay, so we helped him to raise debt because he was good in equity. He had investors in equity and cap table. Then he used the debt to buy another equipment to put a production line, but then again, he forgot to sell. He was working on the production line, improving the product, but he was never selling at the scale necessary to go for banks, because the strategy was to give him the quick, short-term, expensive funding and then go to the banks. 1 year passed by, nothing happened. Then he asked, can you raise equity? Well, this is not something we do, but we have some ideas and contacts. We know how it works, so we helped him to get equity from a crowdfunding platform. He got equity from there because it's very good for B2C business, right? Because these are your ambassadors, these are your customers, they use your chips, they advertise it to others. For B2B, crowdfunding is not that good. For B2C is amazing. And again, he used the money, he put it in equipment, working capital, but he never put it to grow the sales. Final result, I can't disclose information because first I'm bound by NDA, and second, he's struggling right now. So I really hope everything is good and nice on that side, but I mean, he's struggling because he used the debt and equity not to grow the company, to grow the revenue, because this is what we are all looking at. All the banks, all investors are looking for revenue. If there's no revenue, there's no way you will cover your expenses. And we all need to pay back the money we take. So the second example was founder, entrepreneur. He had the land, he wanted to build 3 houses, 5-story houses. He had no money, no equity, mostly no equity. So the strategy was go for debt funding. Okay, we helped him to get the debt funding from a financial platform, but it turned out that he building 3 houses at the same time was not the best strategy for him to do, and the money was not enough. So at some point we went to a bank says, of course, you need more equity. He had few investors on the table, but he said they're not willing to invest, and I don't want to give shares to them. I don't want to have control. Okay. So the strategy was no banks, no equity. So what to do? He had few millions left in the pocket from alternative lenders. So he didn't finish the 2 buildings, and he finished one of those, and then the guy needed to reconvince the people who already bought flats in these 2 buildings that they need to relocate and be here while these are conserved. But he got that, he's finishing the 3rd building, and he'll commission it, he'll have money, and then he will continue building the 2nd and the 3rd one. The moral of the story here is that without money in the first place, the land value was about 2 million. The maximum you can get by LTC, you need equity, right? Like 40%, but LTV, loan to value financing, if you do it properly, you can raise 5-6 million, but not 14. The guy needed 14 million. The third example is a manufacturing company. So the guy actually bought out other shareholders using bank money. A nice story. So he did that. He went to shareholders, said, I'm buying you out. They're old guys, don't want to do anything else. He was there for 10 years. They agreed. He paid him money. He bought each of a car, I think it was Geländewagen, and then he got 100% shares of the company. You know how he got the money? From banks. So actually he borrowed the money to a bank, then transferred it to his holding company, and that used that money to buy out the shareholders. Management buyout, right? But then the bank he got the money from, the manager, after a few months, were sitting thinking, I think it's a strange deal. A young guy, 30 years old, buys out. I mean, I think Richard Branson, 24, had already an Echo Island for 4 million, but who cares? And they started to cut the credit line for him. And at that point, he called me and said, Arthur, please help us. The bank is kicking us out. Why? Because the manager in the bank didn't believe in the story that the guy was telling. Most probably it was too emotional. So we refinanced him to another bank, and the story went very well. So at this stage, I want to thank you all for watching this. I'm doing this channel for entrepreneurs, for founders who want to grow their company using debt financing. Okay, debt equity, yeah. Today was a long day. So debt funding, money for your business, to grow your business with the money from banks, because it increases return on your equity. So thank you very much for watching. Put a like, subscribe, and have a nice day.